Welcome, everyone. My name is Ruben, and this is Yasmeen.
Hi.
We're here live in New York.
Yeah.
As you can see on the background, it's
Times Square.
Times Square, yeah.
Oh, nice.
I heard like tourists love this place, but people that live here hate this place, right?
Yeah, it's really crowded. It's a lot.
It's a lot.
I think tourists for New Yorkers are a little bit of an annoyance.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
It's a crazy place. But we are here, because we met each other a few weeks ago and we were talking about HR, employee experiences, and we're like, we got to sit down, have an interview, and share your story with the world. So
happy to be here.
Here we are. So to start off, I would like to introduce a little bit about yourself. As I saw, you're already for 20 years in HR.
Yes. Where does the time go?
20 years. Wow.
20 years.
In a lot of industries, right? With frontline workers, retail, hospitality. You worked at Sephora.
Yeah.
Some other companies.
Yeah.
Really nice. And recently, or not recently, like 2 years ago, you started as Chief People Officer at Magnolia Bakery.
Yes. Yes.
Congratulations. Really,
Thank
really
you so
cool
much.
company. So this is your first like Chief People Officer role. And before it was like all HR manager, HR director. This is like my first question to you. What is the first or the biggest difference between like an HR director and a Chief People Officer? Because I see it more and more lately. People are becoming Chief People Officers. What is the difference?
Absolutely. I think, well, thank you so much for that introduction. Being a Chief People Officer, you're at the helm of human resources and driving strategy across for the organization at large. So I'm really happy to be a first-time Chief People Officer at Magnolia Bakery, where they've never had this role before.
Wow.
But I have gotten the opportunity to really make my footprint, right? And establish HR practice as I thought it should be, since this is the first time I'm in the role. When I was an HR director, sure, I was still driving strategy, but I was driving strategy that the overall head was making, right? Or the HR corporate executive team felt like we should drive towards and the objectives they created. And I was working with my team of two. At the time, I was in hotels and hospitality to drive that strategy forward. You know, as a Chief People Officer, I have the full function and gamut of HR. So everything from training and recruitment, training not just in the States, training overseas. What does that look like? Being in the food and beverage space, it's not just training on, employee 101, how to be a good employee, right? It's the full gamut of baking. What is our processes? What is our standards? Compliance. We have food and safety is a huge component of the company, and a new role that we have in our commissary. We have a commissary where we actually make our goods and ship it out to the U.S., right? So helping to drive what is the employee experience there for those who work at our commissary, to those who work in the stores, to our corporate team, to how we support our international locations that, yes, are franchised, but our international team is leading. So how do we support them and making sure that they establish like really good employee experience with the stores they're opening? So really exciting time. The company's doing some really great things, and I'm happy to be here. We've done a lot in the time that I've been here and bringing innovative platforms on board to further the employee experience, to manage performance in a just more defined way, that it's a system, right? Where we can track data, we can look at what stories the data is telling and going from there to make strategic decisions at the top.
Great. And so like the people in the Chief People Officer, like the word itself, like before, or a lot of other companies, more traditional companies have like this human resources. Do you see like more companies are now transitioning to like a people, like you see people and culture officers, Chief People Officers? What do you think is it just like the name that's more fancy? Indeed, people, it sounds better than human resources. And is it also that you're then focused on other things, like you just mentioned, employee experience? Like a lot of HR directors are not focused on employee experience, it's just payroll and recruitment and stuff like that. So what do you think? What do you see like is the biggest change, the biggest difference between like an HR director and a Chief People Officer besides the name itself?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. And I think as far as even beyond the name, it's really the discipline and the focus. Because Chief People Officer is a newer title, right? Is a newer versus your standard like vice president of HR, but I
Yeah.
think it's having a human focused, people focused approach in how you go to manage human capital, right?
Yes.
We're managing people.
Yeah.
The decisions that we make impact them. So we need to operate in a way that we are aware that our decisions impact this group.
Yes.
You know, and in the place that they spend most of their time, their lives,
Yeah.
how can we make sure that we're providing a good experience?
Yes.
I think as a chief people officer, back to answering your question, and in leading with people in mind, we're trying to foster an experience
Yes.
that employees want to stay. You know, I could go work somewhere else, but Magnolia Bakery, you know, like the way that people feel about Magnolia Bakery as a brand.
Yes.
As a chief people officer, the goal is that our employees feel that way about working here. That would be my goal in having a human resources approach. I have to say, one thing that I love is any place that I go, any networking kind of event, and we have to have like a round table. Where do you work? And I'm like, I work at Magnolia Bakery. And in my head, I'm like, wait for it. Everyone is like, oh, really? Because it's such a beloved brand. And that's so exciting. You know, who doesn't want to be in a brand that everyone loves, including myself?
Exactly.
But that same reaction, that's how we want employees to feel. And not only myself, my team as well. You know, but we have to create what is that experience to get that reaction.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit more about Magnolia. I want to say for those who don't know Magnolia, but I think most people know Magnolia.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit more about what is Magnolia today? I think a lot of people know it from like series like Sex in the City.
Yes.
That really helped, I think. But where does Magnolia stand today? Like how many locations do we have? How many employees? Like where is the brand today?
Yeah, absolutely. So we started, of course, on a little corner in Bleecker Street in the Village. And it was a 25-second clip from Sex and the City that really got us to have our start and grow into this global brand. So we are the world's most beloved bakery. We're an American-style bakery, buttercream, vanilla, chocolate. We don't get too crazy with all the flavors.
What's your favorite?
My favorite, the hummingbird cake, Beyond. And that's a spiced cake. I never even heard of a hummingbird cake until I tried Magnolia Bakery. I was about to say, write it down because you got to try.
I didn't try this one
I
yet.
probably should have put that in the bag when I give you guys the treats. But it's a spice cake, and then it has bits of like carrot in it, pineapple in it. I usually don't like a lot of things in my food. I like to keep it simple. But the flavor is just out of this world, and it's a cream cheese frosting. It's just absolutely delicious.
Nice. I wrote it down.
But before I get off track, so I would say for Magnolia Bakery, yes, we're the world's like most beloved bakery, and currently we have 10 locations in the States. So we have 8 in New York, 1 in LA, 1 in Chicago. We're looking to expand domestically, but there's just early talks about that, so we'll see what's to come.
Yeah.
We have 30 plus locations overseas, primarily in the Middle East. And we just brought on board our head of international that's going to drive the international strategy forward to make sure that we get into other markets and countries. So that's
Amsterdam. Just a suggestion.
Yes, geez, I'm just saying. Oh, listen, I'm sure it's on the list. And we're looking to, that's going to really be the focus. Of course, we have to build the foundation and make sure everything is in place. We just opened in Turkey. So really excited. The announcement was sent out from our international team yesterday of how the store was like beautiful in the land of legends.
Look at people there.
In Turkey. So really excited about that. So next year, we're really going to be hitting the pavement and expanding in markets. Currently, we are working to expand on CPG. So that's consumer product goods. We launched the banana pudding cookie.
Nice.
And we'll have it in a total of 3 flavors this year. We have some more CPG products coming out, which we'll have in supermarkets across the United States. So that's the focus and the goal.
Wow. Awesome. So 10 locations in the US and then a few hundred.
Like 35 locations, overseas. Altogether, you asked me about employees.
Yeah, how many employees?
Oh, about like 500 plus employees.
Yeah.
In that count, like altogether.
Yeah. And so mostly frontline workers,
Yeah.
right? So now again with frontline workers, and before it retail companies and other hospitality companies as well.
Yeah.
So what do you see is the biggest difference as an HR leader between like the people at the office and the people on the front line. Because what we've noticed is when you go to the HR events or when you read research papers about HR, it's mostly about office workers, knowledge workers, white collar workers. But 80% of the global workforce works on the front line. And there's not enough said about it or enough nuance about the differences between the office workers and frontline workers. So from your experience, what do you see is the biggest difference, and how do you handle this difference as an HR leader?
Well, there's a few things. I mean, our frontline workers, you know, we're trying to expand and launch the business in CPG and international, also in wholesale. So many things we're doing. But what's keeping us going as a brand while we're trying to be innovative and expand the business is our bakeries, is our frontline workers driving the business, keeping the lights on, right?
Yeah.
And ensuring that we have employees to manage and support. Corporate employees can go home. We don't have to worry about somebody calling out or like, you know, I can't make my shift. Can you take my shift?
Yeah.
We have different challenges, sure, as corporate employees. There's a myriad of projects and deadlines that you're working on, having to meet. A lot of cross-functional, interdepartmental, you know, things that you're ideating on, you know, and trying to strategically plan for and execute. And then on the front line, you're head on with our customers.
Yeah.
You're in the midst of it, despite what catastrophe or just pandemic may be happening.
Yes.
You know, we remained open. We were considered essential, you know, which is interesting, right? Cupcakes essential?
Of course.
Gotta
There's
be,
another
right?
question.
New
There's another
York,
question.
I'm telling you. But we were considered essential, and our bakery stayed open, and our teams managed that. They ran that. You know, it's everything. You know, we have such a level of dedication, not just to the brand, but our employees. They love what they do. They love who they work for.
Yeah.
You know, that's
Exactly.
important. So they drive the business, I would say.
Yeah. And the employee experience is also very different, right? Like you said, at the headquarters, it's people sitting behind the desk, Microsoft Teams, Slack, deadlines, projects. And indeed, on the front line, it's a totally different type of employee experience. And how does that difference, how, as an HR leader, like how, what is the difference in your job? Like with regards to like frontline workers and desk workers, like is it a totally different type of HR strategy that you apply to these two different groups? Or is it sort of the same thing and just a little small nuances?
Yeah, I would say it's kind of the same. I mean, as HR, we're still guiding and advising the leaders on the ground. We're still listening to employees who are in the stores. As we listen to employees in corporate, that's the same. I guess the tone of the conversation is a little different because, and this is a great conversation, corporate employees, they're working on driving the future of where we are, whereas our frontline employees are keeping us in the present, driving and sustaining us in the here and now. And so that's a good way to put it. So the tone and, you know, our messaging is different. I may be more so guiding and advising towards, you know, decisions that leaders are trying to make in corporate that sound great now, but how does it impact us later based on where we're looking to grow and go? And our current employees at the store, they have in the moment, day-to-day challenges, customers, you know, in person, trying to maintain our brand presence today. You know, so I think the tone of the messaging is different. That would be the only difference.
Yeah. And with regards to this group, what are the biggest challenges that you're facing at Magnolia, but maybe also at previous companies that you worked? Like, what do you see are the biggest challenges with this group that is different than for the office workers?
For frontline workers, I think it's trying to keep them engaged, right? Because at a point, pizza parties are tired. They're tired of pizza parties. It's like, I don't want any more pizza. We can't celebrate with donuts. We're a bakery. It's not going to work. How do you get employees engaged? And what does that look like? And I think the world has changed. The conversations have changed. You know, after COVID, people are thinking about things differently. They care. Things that they didn't care about, they care about now. Now it's like my well-being, my safety, my health. You know, these weren't things that we were asking about years ago. And so, okay, now that maybe wants and needs have changed, can you identify that? How do you identify that? And then how do you engage them for what their needs are today? And overall well-being, I think of any company, frontline workers, that's important. Well-being and health.
Yeah.
And how
It's a very stressful job.
It's a stressful job. Like the earthquake.
Last week, the earthquake here.
Yeah, it's like 4.8. And I'm like, oh my gosh, the bakery is like, let's call everyone. Is everyone okay? Worried? Did anyone like get nervous and fall? Because it's like, is the ground shaking? What is happening? It's a different kind of check-in. At corporate employees, some people, like, I was working from home that day.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't feel it where I live. I didn't even know there was an earthquake happening. And so, like, my mom was like, oh my gosh, I was like, what? An earthquake? Are you sure?
Yes.
Then I turned on the TV and I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, it looked like the end of the world.
Yeah. I'm telling you, nothing happens in my neighborhood. It's great. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're just the frontline employees, the challenges that you have.
Oh, the challenges of frontline. So it's engaging their well-being.
Yeah.
And knowing that COVID has changed, people's needs have changed with COVID. It's identifying, well, how do we engage them in their well-being? How can we engage our employees in a way that they know that we care?
Yeah.
And it's with knowing that they can grow, that they can have more than what they do today.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the helm of it is succession planning.
Yeah.
So that is a core focus for me now.
Mm-hmm.
We have succession planning meetings like around the clock of like, who do we have? Who are our low performers?
Mm-hmm.
Who needs more help? Who needs more training?
Yeah.
Who have we given the help and the training? They're still not changing. What is the plan? Exit plan for them. Yeah. And who internally can move and promote into that role.
Yeah.
And I will say, when we have a job, before we even post a job description, that's a strategy that I created here at Magnolia. Mm-hmm. We let everyone know internally. Like there's an internal job fair before there is an external posting.
I looked at the job openings at Magnolia. Just looking.
Yeah.
It's a nice company to work
Research.
for. But there were only 2 job openings, I think. Like you have a lot of, because that's another thing I also saw that 40% of your employees stay for more than 10 years.
Yeah. 40% more than 10 years. That's like unheard of.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So not a lot of people that are leaving that you have to replace. And if you have to replace, you have a lot of people internally that can do it. So it's that's a great thing. I think a lot of hospitality companies will be very jealous of that.
I'm sure. It's like, how did they do that? But engaging them. That's why I say employee engagement is everything. Yeah.
What do you think employee engagement means towards the employees? Like I worked on the front lines myself, or front lines, it sounds like it was at the war, but that's what I don't like about this word frontline. It has some war theme to it, but we're talking about people that are working on the shop floor at in retail and hospitality. I was working there myself, and employee engagement was not a term that anyone sort of was giving anything about. It was like they didn't really care about it.
Interesting.
I mean, we of course we wanted to work for a company that we like. So what do you think employee engagement means to the people on the front lines?
Oh, I love this question. I think employee engagement means that I, as an employee, I am seen, I am heard, I am valued, and I'm acknowledged. That's employee engagement. Like when you can hit on all 4 of those points, employees will go to the end of the world for you. Your team will. I'll tell you a 2.5 second story. I promise I'll probably keep it to 1.5. But when I worked in hotels, I still call them my dream team.
Yeah.
Me and my team, shout out to Ben and Sori, but we experienced a lot together, a lot of transition at the hotel. Transition meaning, having a president of the hotel, no president of the hotel, no GM, that getting switched around, ownership groups getting switched around, went through 2 construction projects. Yeah. And this is like a top 10 largest hotel in the city, so a top 5 at the time. So it was a lot with 550 employees that were union.
Whoa.
And it was me and my team of 2.
In HR.
That's really understaffed for what we were handling. And COVID hit. Yeah. And my team had to go out on furlough. And I had 4 days to learn how to do payroll. Now, although I've been in HR for a really long time, I always had a payroll person. Now I was the payroll person. It was
For
devastating.
500 people.
Yeah, for 550 people who are union and were also being severanced on a weekly basis. So, having to do all of that in the system was a challenge nonetheless. And it hurt my heart to tell them that I had to furlough them because I had more than enough work for like not only them two, us, all three of us, but like an additional 4 people. And I worked COVID. I went to work. I was in New York City was a ghost town. I was on the train.
Yeah.
It was bad. And it was a ghost town. And I worked every day. I was leaving work at like 8:30, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night in COVID.
Yeah.
I was getting there like 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. straight. And one day, in my second week of doing payroll by myself, Binta Diallo is her name, shout out. She showed up. It was 9 a.m. in the morning. And I said, what in God's name are you doing here? It's not safe. With her mask. And she took her mask down. She put her stuff down. She said, you need help.
Yeah.
I'm going to do payroll. And that is like such a touching emotional moment for me in the best way. Because she came. I didn't call her. I didn't text her. And she came every single day to work for the next 3 weeks in COVID with no pay.
Wow.
And I said, I'm going to pay you. So literally breakfast, lunch, and dinner on me.
Yeah.
Uber home on me.
Yeah.
I can't pay you. I have to do something. And that's what I did.
She deserves a shout out.
Yeah. But why would she show up in COVID, no pay, to help her boss who's still, quite frankly, I was cut down to 50%. Well, she was seen, she was heard, she was valued, she was acknowledged.
Yeah. And that resulted into making the extra step.
Absolutely.
Wow. That's a good one. Indeed, I think that's the end result of, or what engagement actually is that people take in the extra step. They care.
Absolutely.
They're engaged. They care because they are heard, valued, and the other 2 things that that you've mentioned.
Yeah.
So how do you do that? I mean, people at the headquarters at Magnolia, indeed, they care about people, etc. But how do you translate that to the people on the front line? Like, how do they feel that? Like, how do they get that feeling?
Sure. Well, 2 ways. These questions are so good. You have to show up and be present, right? So it's me, and we call ourselves the 3 Musketeers. So that's my vice president of training and development. His name is Doug Vaughn. Shout out to him. Don't recruit my people. And they wouldn't go to you anyway. And then there's also Gabe Amato. He is the vice president of operations. Yeah. And we're the 3 Musketeers, in that we interview together, we screen together. We have succession planning meetings together weekly, bi-weekly, of who internally can we to move to the next step. And we rotate doing store visits. Yeah. Because we are making what's interesting about corporate teams, so many decisions are being made from this ivory tower 50,000 feet in the air.
Yeah.
But how do you know that all the decisions you're making make sense in the day-to-day? How do you know that the employees like what we're deciding or choosing to work on and focus on? And so we have to get into the stores to find out. Yes. So I was at our Bleecker Street location, which is our first location I went to last week, and I asked them, how do you guys feel about, the training that we put out, or how some initiative, it wasn't a training, it was an initiative that we did. How you guys felt about it? First of all, half the team didn't even know what it was. Yeah. It's a whole other conversation. And the few that did, they were like, it was okay. I really didn't see a point in it. Yeah. And I was like, really? Well, we thought to do this because A, B, C, D. I explained it. And they were like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Exactly. Okay. Communication is not just sending out a newsletter. It's also like showing up in person.
It's important. Yeah. Once I explained it, it was interesting to me. The employee was like, okay, but it didn't translate. All this thoughtfulness of how impactful we thought it was going to be. It didn't land at all.
Yeah. Exactly. And I think that's another thing with the frontline workers. That when you're office workers, you're sitting all together, not maybe every day, but you see them a lot of times during the week. So you can easily bounce off ideas and see if things work, and you can feel the vibe in the office. But that's the difficult thing with frontline workers. They're all across the country. and you don't mind. You have a benefit here that you have a lot of locations right in Manhattan. It's like one subway ride or Uber ride away.
Yeah.
But
Always an Uber.
but that's the difficult thing with a lot of companies with frontline workers. They sit in the ivory tower. They come up with ideas, but they don't see the people on the front line. So indeed, visiting them, even though if it's easy or hard, indeed you should visit them.
Yeah. You should visit them. It should be required. But I will tell you, I've been in retail HR for some time.
Mm-hmm.
Most companies, you may have like an ops person or a store leader.
Yeah.
That's the only person who's showing up in the store.
Yeah.
And if other people do, it's for a visit.
Exactly.
But outside of a visit, like, don't you care about like the rest of the time? Don't you want to know in a more intrinsic way, you know?
Yeah. How can a company facilitate the interactions between head office people and people on the front line?
I think getting more involved, finding ways where those two groups can interact more and get to know each other more.
Yeah.
We have something also that I established when I came on board to Magnolia. I realized in the corporate team, I was like, there's not really any fun at work. It was weird to me because I'm like, this is a fun brand. It's cupcakes, sprinkles, light stuff. So why aren't we having fun? So every month, we do 2 employee engagement initiatives. And what was this month? This month is karaoke and an office happy hour.
Yeah.
HR office, hello. And we invite the GMs. So the GMs in the corporate team, you get to mingle.
Yeah.
You know, there was a vendor that we work with. He gives us baseball tickets or like box seats or whatever to baseball games. We invited last year the store managers, the GMs, and the corporate team, so people can like mingle together. So I think it's finding ways and spaces that those groups can connect.
Yeah. And that's indeed like head office with the general managers, and general managers, they know what's happening on the front line. They can translate it. But I also heard from this other, a large retailer from the Netherlands, where they have a policy that every new hire at the head office has to work at least one day on the front line, just in retail, like wear a shirt, helping customers. And they have to do that every year.
Yeah, we do that in holiday.
On holiday.
Yeah, we do that in holiday.
That's cool.
The corporate team goes and we'll put on the uniform and like work in the store.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a nice one.
Yeah.
That's
so it's you know, that's another way to like intermingle. Yeah.
Yeah. Because indeed that's so important to have the alignment between the head office and and the
hugely
people.
important.
So Magnolia is doing a lot indeed for the employee experience, employee engagement, like making people feel valued. Why are you doing that? Is it like the management? Is it like a cultural thing that says this is important, or is there some kind of business case for it? Because the reason I'm asking this is not a lot of companies are doing that. We believe that it's important, and we're convincing them it's important, but they are like, well, we pay people, they have to show up, they have to do their job, and that's it. Like employee engagement, employee experience, why should I invest in that? Why is that important? Because a lot of companies, for example, in retail or in hospitality, some of them are like really ROI driven, and they want to see numbers. But this is more, there are some research papers that can back up like, why is this important? But still, it feels very vague. So why are you doing it? Or why is Magnolia doing this? Why is it so important to Magnolia?
It's the right thing to do. I would also say, you know, I worked my way up in HR. I started off, I said an HR admin, but I should even go back further than that. I was a temp. Was like my first corporate gig. And I remember working in corporate offices and I didn't have a name. Even though I would introduce myself and say, hi, I'm Yasmeen. I've always had really bright energy, very vibrant energy. And it's just like, oh, okay, the temp. I'm like, oh my God, really?
Yeah.
And I remember being in corporate spaces and not being acknowledged and how that felt and how I could have felt small, but I chose not to because I know that I'm not. And it put, I think, an additional battery in my back to want to ensure that I could be in a position where employees would not have to feel like that.
Yeah.
So do I have a bias? Absolutely. Like a manager that poorly manages their team, I'm all on it.
Yeah.
I'm all on it. I'm all about it because employees should feel value and safe at work, psychologically safe. They should feel cared for and considered. So I think I have an internal motivation to drive this forward. It's a right thing to do to drive employee experience and to make sure that there's growth opportunity. Like every company that I've worked for, I've met one or multiple employees that are like, I've been in this position for 6 years, I'm tired.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, why haven't you applied for position A or B? No one, it's open? No one told me it's open. I'm like, what do you mean no one told you about this position? So then I'm like, okay, we need to be better about internal comms, that they know there's opportunity, like there's movement. So it's the right thing to do. I'm passionate about it. And then at Magnolia as a brand, we care about our people.
Yeah.
You know?
It's a cultural thing.
It's a cultural thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
They all agree it's the right thing to do.
Yeah. And if they didn't, they'd have to because I'm here now. You know? So it's like, this is what we're focused on.
And what would you say to the management or the people, the HR directors of retail companies, hospitality companies, people with frontline workers, like if they don't care about it, they say, well, okay, what's the business case? Why should we do that? Would you say, okay, good luck to you, you will find out? Or would you say something to convince them like, hey, there's an actual business case? Like, why is this important? Like, if you do this, what will the company notice, or what will the guests notice, or the customers notice? Like, how will it change the business when you do the right thing indeed?
And are you saying if I work for a company that doesn't realize why it's important, or HR leaders?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. If I work for a company that doesn't think it's important for employee experience, which I have, I'm at the wrong company.
Yeah.
And I've left.
But what if you had to stay? Like,
but if
I
had to stay and I couldn't just leave, I would make a case for it. A compelling one with data points, sure. And I find at least a tactic of when you pull at someone's heartstrings and make an emotional connection with a person or get them to emotionally connect, they'll be for your cause regardless of what it is. So just from a psychological, outside of data points, I think you need a psychological strategy to like win over your case, and I'd create that.
Yeah, because eventually it is not just a business case. It's not like you say, oh, you're going to say the productivity is going to increase, we'll save labor costs, the employee turnover will get lower, so we'll save recruitment costs.
Right.
Oh, let's do it. Because if it's just a business case and it's not really coming from the heart, let's say, it's not really coming from like actual leaders wanting to be leaders and leading the team, people will notice. Like, people will not feel that it's honest, that it's genuine. It just feels like a tactic. Oh, now there are gonna be pizza parties every month.
Right,
Wow.
right.
Just as a check mark,
Right.
let's say. Oh, they're building a business case. It's as a check mark. No, they have to really feel that it's coming from the right place. Otherwise, it's not gonna work.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's a tough position if companies indeed don't believe in that. So, I'm happy Magnolia does, and you're doing also now a lot of things since you've joined to enhance the employee experience. We talked about it a little bit. You introduced cultural values, right, recently?
Yes.
Can you tell a little bit more about how that process went?
Absolutely. So coming on board, they were already in the values process, they being our CEO and some of our senior team, but they decided to pause because they're like, the person who should be leading these values is our North Star, and we don't have that. And the North Star is the CPO. I'm the North Star, oh my gosh. And so I sat with my team, sure, we looked up words. We did that exercise of like, what are other companies doing? And I have thoughts around, going out to see what people are doing, as I like to say, across the street, another conversation. But just to kind of like get the blood flowing for like, what are different values we can have. But I have people on my team who've been with the company for a really long time.
Yeah.
Like my recruiter's been with the company this year, makes 20 years.
Wow.
My VP of Training and Development has been with the company 14 years, and they started off at the store managers.
Yeah.
No, actually, my recruiter, I think he started off as counter. I mean, it was like the first position. He's like the regional recruiter of the United States of America.
Of America.
Go Byron!
That's what you
And-
want, like to get the people of the front line
Yeah.
to get promoted.
And get promoted. So
Yeah.
I have they have the employee life cycle journey.
Mm-hmm.
So based on what you've seen, based on the change, based on where we need to be and focusing on employee experience, what are values, not words, what are values that matter?
Yeah.
So that was, yes, we got the blood flowing with looking up value words, but then the conversation went there to really dig into their journeys and where we are today. I think I've worked in companies where we talk about values. Find me a leader who lives that.
Yeah.
Like actually in real time, right? I think our values there's something that we need to also strive to.
Yes,
know?
exactly. Because usually you want it to really... Oh, there's something happening outside. We're at Times Square after all. There's probably some famous
I'm gonna be
artists
right
over there.
I was telling your wife, like, in the Uber, I mean, I need like stock in Uber. I need like equity or something in Uber. It's ridiculous.
Because you're using it all the time.
Yes, every day.
Yes, exactly. But what I wanted to say is indeed the cultural values, like it has to be real. Doesn't like indeed you want to live it, but indeed it should also be something that you strive for. So that's a really nice thing. So can you tell a little bit more about what the culture values are and if it's public? I don't know if you want to.
It's not public yet, so I can't say it. No, it's so good.
I'm so curious. You should tell me afterwards.
Well, I'll say one, and I hope that should be okay. I'll say one that's like my favorite.
Yeah.
So our values is an acronym. I feel like I'm making it a mystery. I really don't mean to do that. But our values is an acronym.
Yeah. That
is relative to who we are as being a bakery.
Yeah.
And one of our values, I would say, is my favorite, is extraordinary. And oftentimes you'll find like excellence is a value that a lot of companies have. We work in excellence. We expect excellence, right? But to work in an extraordinary fashion, to set up and establish as a leader processes, systems that are extraordinary, that not exceed whatever mark or agenda we could ever expect. And to hire, I mean, just the lens of, a value has so many different lenses that it needs to touch points, right, in a company. To hire people that are extraordinary and to be able to fine tune our recruitment and people assessment processes to find those unique qualities in individuals that add more color to the Magnolia landscape in skill and ability and background. That's fascinating.
That's a nice one, extraordinary. You don't hear that often. You usually hear like transparency,
right?
Like the standard things. Extraordinary, didn't hear that.
Yeah, it doesn't. You don't hear that every day. So it was really great to just drive this with my HR team, and we really sat down to think of words and a few of the. I keep saying words, values. A few of the values were kept in the final stage.
Yeah.
Extraordinary, my CMO, now Chief Commercial Officer.
Yeah.
Eddie Rivas. Shout out, Eddie. I'm just giving shout outs. He came up with the word, and I think in ideating from a marketing perspective too, it's helpful. But that is my favorite value.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
So indeed, you've mentioned there are leaders that they have the values, but do they actually live it? So now you've introduced them. How are you going to make it alive? Like, what is changing? Like, besides maybe hanging out posters in the canteens, like showing the values, like how are you going to make it alive and indeed something that people are reminded of and strive for?
Absolutely. Well, with our values, we've taken a very strategic but human approach, I'd like to say. We just announced them yesterday in a town hall to the company. And so my CEO is actually having one-to-one meetings, like almost like fireside chats with the various departments and smaller groups to really go into the detail of what these values are and mean to us and what they should mean. Some of these, all of the chats, if you will, are going to have like examples of the mindset of this value that you should have. If you're interviewing a candidate, what does that look like? She's going to take just the whole breakdown of how the values operate to the team. And then us as HR, we all have a part to play. My recruiter, the values need to be in the assessment of how we're assessing talent. In training, now we have to have values training.
Yeah.
When I'm the owner and keeper of policy, but also of employee relations. So when we have a leader or an employee that is not living up to a value, that's now a documentation point. It's not just verbal, written, final. It's I'm giving you a written because you haven't lived up to the value of being extraordinary, and here's why, with examples. So the values, how would it be executed? It's going to be infused in all areas of the company.
And repeated very often.
Yes.
Amazing. Yeah. I saw this video clip once of a CEO of a large trucking company, again, a lot of frontline workers, and they also have like these values. I think it were like 7 or 8. I think that's, I don't know how many you have. We know 1 for now.
1.
I think like there's this...
we have 5.
5, that's great, because I think at like there's some drop off, like at 6 or 7 or 8, like it will be so hard to remember. I think 4 or 5 indeed is what you want. But what he did is he was just giving a presentation for like an entire group of new employees. And he said, if there's one person who can mention all 8 values, I will give the person $100. And there was only one person who could do that, and he got the $100. That was fun, but indeed.
And we'll have contests like that with our store team, frontline workers. Absolutely, we do that.
Indeed, to keep it alive. But I shared a video online, and someone commented like, it's not just about remembering, like naming them all like words, you have to live it, and that's
Absolutely.
true. But still, first of all, people need to know. Like that's step 1. It's not the only step, but it's step 1, and then second step is needed, has to be repeated, and people have to live it, etc., etc. So,
and I think adding fun around it. I mean, we just launched it yesterday, so this year I wanted to do recognition in a new way, and I pitched having a gala. I mean, who doesn't want to get dressed up? Honestly, I think I just want to wear a gown and shoes. I love getting dressed up. But no,
that's a good idea,
right?
A gala.
So
it's something else in a pizza party, right?
Right, better than a pizza party. You're tired of the pizza. So this is literally like our values gala, and it's going to be next month in May. We rented out a place not far from Times Square, very chic.
The plaza.
Yeah. The plaza. Oh, we're not there yet. I wish. And employees get to nominate people who they believe, now that they know what the values are one of the values, and they're going to be awarded in front of the entire company. And then 40% of the employees who've been here for like 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 plus years are all going to be given recognition awards.
Great one. Again, the recognition, the feeling valued is one of the things that drive the engagement. So great stuff. And there's this ambition at Magnolia, right, to become a great place to work. So a lot of these things are helping a lot with.
Absolutely,
with What are some other great projects that you've already done or you're working on that you want to share that are making or improving the employee experience and improving the employee engagement?
I think this is a year of feedback for us. So expanding on what that looks like. So we launched our suggestion box, which is great. But that's pretty standard, right? We wanted to escalate that in having fireside chats. So we're going to have fireside chats with team members, not only in our corporate office, which we call the home office, but also with our store team. We want to hear from you. We want to know what you want to see and take that back, have conversations. So basically what employees want and what they feel that they need, that they're letting us know, that those things will be infused in the decisions we're making.
And how are you doing it? How are you doing those fireside chats?
Oh, just like literally putting time on the calendar, letting them know, hey guys, fireside chat. I have a max of like 15 who could come first to sign up. People are going to want to get in. So if they can't be in the one this week, maybe we could do another one the following week just to get feedback. Because I feel how we have been doing it, how most companies do it, they create whatever kind of rules, processes, initiatives, and then ask for feedback. What if you had the feedback before you went to work, right? Like you'd be working with more of a sense of purpose. And so that's the goal, to hear from employees, to have recognition be in a new way. Magnolia has been around for 25 plus years. We've never had like a a gala, and it's going to be an annual thing.
Wow.
I'm so excited. So annual party with the recognition, the fireside chats. We're looking for new platforms we can bring on board to support employee communication. One Team is amazing. Plug. I think it's great. I think it's great for the company. And we are also looking at adding some new benefits. We want to ensure that we have a competitive advantage and that we maintain it.
Exactly. What indeed about that competitive advantage? There are so many companies in hospitality and in retail, and there's some shortages in some industries. Like, how do you? Of course, you have the brand. Like, that's definitely a big benefit already. And working with all those amazing cupcakes and stuff. So, but what are other things indeed that you're doing to attract people and stand out, like in terms of benefits, etc.
I think our benefits is something that we're working with and through, right? There may be not standard benefits that we have, which we know could be like a detriment to us, but we make it up for it in other ways, So I would say for our benefits, we shop different vendors. Vendors come to us, or I get emails all the time, LinkedIn all the time. Hey, I got this company. Here we go.
Yeah.
But if
that's the life of an HR director.
Yeah,
right?
it's a life of it's just like, I got this company. Everyone has a company, but I think the pitch is important.
Annoying founders, annoying companies.
But why should I care about what you have, right?
Yeah.
And it's in the pitch. I think you had a really compelling DM that you sent me on LinkedIn. It's just like, yeah, let's have a call.
Yeah.
Let me hear what's going on. And I was very intrigued because you presented your company, you presented One Team in a way that was very clear to me that this could be a solution to problems that we have and we're trying to solve.
Yeah.
That was great.
Great.
And then look at that. 2 weeks later, you're here in New York. That was great.
We're having a great time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good.
So, but again, about the benefits, like some or other projects that you feel maybe are unique. Not a lot of companies are doing that. Like, what are some of the things? I think I've heard you once talk about on another podcast about childcare.
Yeah. So that's a benefit we're looking at. We're in final stages about to present. So adding a childcare benefit is not something that's common. It's super helpful for those who have kids. And oftentimes when we look at our employees, they cannot afford childcare, or something happened with the babysitter. This service will provide them to have aid and help on a last minute whim. We also have employees who want to do fun things with their kids or their family, but may not have the money because the cost of living in New York is high.
Yeah.
So we came across this service called Ani, which is a cultural benefit. Again, I've never heard of anything like this. So yes, you would catch my attention. It's like, let's set up a call. And Ani is a cultural employee benefit in that all of the museums or like museums, botanical gardens, art exhibits, kind of stuff around the city, you'd have the MoMA, you'd have a discount on going to see.
That's great.
Because you're a part of a company that has this as a benefit. And it's like, this is great because we are like a very family-oriented company. Yeah. I will tell you a fun fact about our company. We had a myriad of employees that started off as an icer and then married a baker, and then they had kids, and then their kids work so everyone is in a different location. Yeah. The mother is in one location, the husband's in another location, the brother, the sister, then the brother and sister may have had kids, and the kids also work in one of the bakeries. So we have multiple families, right?
That's so cool.
Throughout our bakeries, and basically that would be a great benefit that they would use. So that's the kind of different stuff we're looking at doing. Yeah.
Great. Looking at the time, we have to round up a little bit. But my final question to you is, what are some HR trends that you're now focused on? Like, what are some trends that you're like, you just mentioned a few in the beginning about COVID, like things changing. But what are some other trends that are really, really important to you?
I would say HR leaders need to look at how they can do HR in a new and different way. We need to look at work from a different perspective. What is the future of work? How do we need to be functioning differently to better support our teams? I know I mentioned it on another podcast, but it's something I'm truly passionate about. I think it's a podcast you found me on.
Yeah.
But I think HR needs to function like the internal CMO.
Yeah.
Right? HR, and what does that mean? CMOs are head of marketing departments, and marketing departments are advertising to the external customer, but our internal customer is our employees. I would love to see a survey of a company who could send it out to their employees and ask if they know about all the benefits and offerings. Do you know that 40 to 55% of employees have no idea about what their company offers or covers, or would aid in them having a better well-being or wellness in their life? No clue.
Yeah.
But that's a job of the HR leader to be the internal CMO, to make sure that we have internal comms, getting it out to them so they're aware of what is available to them.
Yeah, and again, especially with frontline workers, because they're so hard to reach. What you also said before, you go to the store, you talk to the people, and half of them don't even know about the thing you've just communicated 100 times.
Yeah, like no clue.
Yeah. It was in an email. It was on a bulletin board. I don't read that.
Right. It's like, I'm trying to clock in and get out of here. You know, I got to get my kids.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So hard to reach them. Exactly. All right. I think we have to wrap up. Thank you so much for your time.
No, thank you. This is great. This is so good.
It was a lot of fun. So, and everyone watching, thank you for watching all the way until the end. Hope you got some inspiration, and hope you have a great rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you.